Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder
and lists.
And we're doing a new topic this week.
Yes.
A new old topic, kind of Black Widows, where we think we've done them before, but we've just done a lot of them. We did little old lady murderers, which is
but that's down. It's not up anymore.
It's not up anymore. But it essentially was all Black Widows.
Yeah, that tends to be what little old ladies do. So that was a big portion. And also Poisoners had a couple as well, because that's sort of some overlap.
Yeah, the ladies do love their poison. So
yeah, if you're gonna kill a bunch of husbands and you're a lady, you tend to poison them.
Yeah, and I get it. When you're old and you just want to be left the fuck alone, you gotta deal with this trifling ass man. You might just poison him. I get it. I feel it. I wouldn't do it. Trifling ass man.
It reminds me of Belle Gunnis. Triflers need not apply.
Yes, she just straight up said
iconic.
It,
yeah.
Sometimes, especially our grandparents and shit, they got married young. They didn't know what they were doing. They got stuck. I get it. I feel it. I'm not, gonna do it, but I get that it's a thing. Anyway, just a real quick for you guys. Next week, Diva is being a popular girl. She's gonna have lots of friends in town, so she's not around. So I will be doing at least one solo, and then we might release an old Patreon that nobody's heard unless you're a patron. Yeah. So you'll still get new content next week.
Special edition, limited edition content.
Yes. But Diva's going to be enjoying her life because you fucking should.
Also, if you see me looking to my left, it's because there's a really tiny, stupid little dog with a pink sundress on in my yard, and I can't stop looking at it.
That's pretty cute, I gotta say. My dog has an earache today, and he's so upset about it. And I'm waiting until tomorrow to see if I need to take him in. But I dug into his ear to clean it out, and he was yelping. And this dog does not yelp. You could cut his fucking nose off, and he'd just not even feel it. So the fact that it's hurting him is
yeah.
Anyway, so we're doing Black Widows. I think we're doing the Patreon this week before Diva goes on her friendcation. And what was I gonna say? Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/twistedlisters. TikTok's just @twistedlisters. We're getting so many likes on those videos still. It's people are just discovering them.
You gotta keep up with the Jared Fogle saga, man. Think of how big we could get if you just kept doing more Jared Fogle videos.
Or the Ezra Miller, is that their name?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those ones blew up. It's weird how many videos we've done that have got hundreds of thousands of views.
I think of the Ezra Miller escapades that came out of that video every time I see the new trailer for the Flash movie.
I know, me too. And how I had weird, their weird stalker quote unquote friends telling
supporters
me
were chatting you
everything.
up.
Yeah,
so
and then
weird.
I got the address of their house and was able to do Google Maps because I'm a weird stalker. Anyway, it's weird where life takes you.
Some of the weirdest chats I've ever been just a voyeur on. I'm what the fuck? And I would lose track of what you're talking about and come in and yeah, it's very convoluted.
It was really weird. This person, whoever they were fucking wild, and they were Ezra's innocent, and I was Ezra came out and apologized, and they're oh shit. It was pretty interesting. Anyway, join us on Instagram, Diva. You can tell them where that's at.
It is Twisted Listers PCast.
You can check out our website,
twistedlisterspod.com,
or email us. Some of you do. I love when we hear from you guys. You can email us at
twistedlisterspod@gmail.com.
That's right. And now we're gonna get into it because it's still early enough in the day. This is right after work recording. It's not even dark out yet.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna capitalize on that by getting this done and then watching TV.
Ooh, yeah, me too. I got some really great Korean survivalist reality shows that we're into.
Oh man, I'm just gonna comfort watch The Boys again.
Also, speaking of true crime watching, I just watched that whole Duggar documentary on Amazon today while I was working.
Oh, fuck that guy. How was
Fucked up. You gotta do a TikTok on that fucking guy. It would blow up.
Oh God, I know. But then I have to think about him and I don't want to.
It's the grossest thing in the world.
I bet. I bet.
Ugh. And so the whole cult and all the prairie dresses. It's just like,
yeah, that's so fucked up.
So bad.
I hate that shit. I also hate how like that's becoming like the aesthetic for like rich people right now is like beige prairie dresses. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all look like you're in a fucking cult. Like, how many husbands do you have? Or wives or whatever? I don't know. It's disgusting. Anyway, let's talk about some Black Widows. I'm gonna kick this shit off with a wild one. This is the story of Josephine Gray.
Okay.
Quick note about me, because I love to talk about myself. My middle name was almost Josephine.
Oh.
So I probably, when in my tomboy phase, would have gone by CJ had that been the case.
Okay.
But I was not.
That
allowed.
works.
Anyway.
CJ fits you.
Right? I thought so. My mom wouldn't let it happen. Which I'm mad about. So whatever. Anyway, forever bitter. All right. This takes place in 1996 in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm just gonna jump right in. In a car in the middle of like a parking lot, a body is found, and this body has been murdered, shot to death. There are 2 bullet wounds in this body. The way this body is found is that police are called for an abandoned vehicle, and they find the body inside. They start looking around, and they pretty quickly identify the body using, I believe, like an ID, as that of 28-year-old Clarence Good. I think who's Calvin Good? That's a person.
It might be. I don't know off the top of my head. Okay.
But anyway, this is Clarence Good. Clarence was originally from Brooklyn, but was sent to Baltimore to live with his aunt when he was 14 years old. His mom didn't want him to get into more. Not his aunt. Oh my God, I'm fucking this up so bad. His name is Clarence, and he went to live with his second cousin. This is his mom's cousin.
Okay.
His mom didn't want him to get in any more trouble or go down a bad path in Brooklyn, so she thought moving him to another area would be smart. So Clarence here is sent to live with his aunt again, his cousin, Josephine Gray. The thing is, she's like, I don't know, 20 years older than him, so it's hard for me to think of her as a cousin. Even though like Rory has like an aunt that's like younger than him. So I mean, it's just however your family goes down. Anyway.
Gotcha.
I don't have any family, or hardly any, so I don't know how this shit works. Anyway, so he's sent to live with his cousin, Josephine Gray, a married mother of 6. Josephine is living just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, and she's married to her second husband. She's a churchgoer and a school custodian, as is her husband. So this is a very stable situation, seemingly, with 2 seemingly caring parents. And Clarence actually starts to do really well. He's doing better in school. He's, just not getting into trouble. He seems happier. Most of Josephine's kids had moved out at this point. She had actually had them when she was pretty young, and she was only 35 at this time. But she did have her youngest son, who was 16, still living at home, and he helped guide Clarence. So Clarence, like I said, he was 14 when he moved in, so they're around the same age, right?
Okay.
And this youngest son is really, helpful. And like I said, Clarence just flourished. Meanwhile, very sadly, Josephine and her husband, Robert, start to drift apart. And eventually they split, with Robert moving out of the house altogether. Josephine starts dating another man named Andre, and she and Clarence move in with him. Clarence is now 18, and he meets a young woman, and they fall in love. They don't end up staying together, but they do have a son together, and Clarence becomes an extremely dedicated father. So he's really into caring for his child.
Okay.
He remains close with Josephine, and especially after his breakup, he starts spending more time with her again. He doesn't move back in with her, but he does, like, he's at the house a lot, right?
Okay.
And this is despite having 2 jobs to take care of his son. So he's basically hanging out with his cousin and working and seeing his son, and that's basically it.
Okay.
So as far as we know, and by which I mean there is 0 proof or even suggestion otherwise, he was not a drug user. He didn't have any addiction issues. He was on a good path. Which is why it was so weird that when his body was found in the trunk of his own car, there was a baggie of cocaine safety pinned into his underwear.
Safety pin is also a pretty weird choice.
Super weird. Yeah.
Also, it's going to pierce the bag, like, right?
Right. Right.
Seems dumb. Seems like kind of a dumb amateur thing to do.
I think that it's actually a way that people carry it in their underwear, like to keep it from being stolen.
Right.
But police immediately call bullshit on this, and here's why. So on the one hand, there are murders in this part of Baltimore every day. At this time, we're in 1996. That being said, that really helped police to sort of decipher what is and is not a drug-related murder, right?
Right.
So they're going to know, like, if it's drug-related. And they're immediately like, if this is a drug shooting, they would not have left the cocaine on him. Like, if he was being murdered for, like, buying or selling cocaine, why would he still have the drugs on him? Whoever murdered him to, like, rob him or whatever wouldn't have left a baggie on his person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Also, you know, they reach out to his family and friends. It's unclear if they reached out to Josephine exactly at this time, but the ones that they did speak to all said Clarence was in no way involved in the drug world. He was not a user, he was not a dealer. And lastly, police also noted there was no blood in his car or around the area. So police are immediately like, he was killed elsewhere, dumped here, and it was staged to look like a drug-related murder. So that's fucking suspicious. And why stage it this way? You know what I mean? Like dump him in a river, do something. It's just kind of interesting. Also, I do have to say that I think it's kind of lucky that the cops here realize this because Clarence is a black man. This is in the 90s and it's in Baltimore. So the fact that they paid any attention to this murder at all is pretty wild because
wow, thank God. But still, you're right. It's not like expected of them.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I think if they really thought that it was drug related, they probably would have given up and like been like, whatever, we don't fucking care. But since they realized this wasn't drug related, they're like, we should probably look into this, you know?
Yeah.
So kind of good they did that.
They're kind of like determining if they have to like not care or care.
Yeah. Like we have to do our jobs today.
Yeah.
But they did, and that's great. As police continue to interview Clarence's family and friends, they learned that he and Josephine were not just cousins. They were also in a sexual relationship.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yes. So they are doing it. And the most fucked up thing is that everyone said that she was super domineering over him and basically controlled him from the moment he moved in. So from the time he was like 14. People also said that he was quiet and shy, which is something they also said about Robert, who was Josephine's husband at the time Clarence came to live with them. So there's a pattern there for sure.
And the fact that he was so young when she like was first knew him. I mean, with any cousin, that's going to be the case. But like, I don't know, it makes it extra predatory and gross.
Well, because she's 20 years older. She is his cousin, but she's in like the role of like his mother.
Yeah, the power dynamic.
Yeah, it's not clear if he was an adult when this started, but even if he was, the dynamic was already there. So if you're being groomed like that young, it doesn't really matter if you're officially like an adult by the time the sex actually starts because the seed was planted.
Yeah.
You know, way earlier.
Yeah.
So Josephine was also interviewed. She was clearly very upset about, you know, his murder. And you know, she denied having anything to do with his death, of course. It wasn't really even that they were asking at that point, but she did admit to the affair. And a lot of people said that that's why Robert and Josephine split, was because Robert found out about the relationship. So it's pretty well known. And everybody, it was just a well documented thing. It wasn't like a secret.
Yeah.
And this continued, this affair, even after she moved in with her new boyfriend, Andre. So I think this was more about her controlling Clarence than anything because, you know, she was moving on in other ways. She had her next actual boyfriend, but she was still like keeping him around.
Non-cousin boyfriend.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And the most fucked up part is that Andre knew about this relationship. He was interviewed and he's like, yeah, I knew about it. And even said like, oh, we propositioned him for like a threesome or something like that. He also said like, Clarence heard them having sex one night and he got really upset and like left. And that actually after that night, he moved out and was trying to move on with his life. And I think that at this point, this is where Josephine got pissed because she's like, he's no longer under my thumb, you know?
Yeah.
So of course she pulled him back in. She used whatever control she had and got him to kind of come back to her. He never moved back in, but he did get back into this like sexual relationship with her.
Yeah. So there's some overlap between the boyfriend and the other boyfriend.
Quite a bit. It basically, the whole time she was with Andre, she was also like with quote unquote Clarence.
Gotcha.
So police interview Andre extensively and they find out, he definitely or most likely was not involved in the murder. He was helpful and he was honest. Josephine, on the other hand, pretty quickly became the primary suspect. And this is due in part not only to this weird sexual relationship and kind of the rocky relationship as right before, Clarence died, but it's also due in part to her very checkered past, which includes 2 dead ex-husbands.
Oh, okay. Oh, here's the Black Widow twist moment.
Here we go. So Josephine was from Montgomery County, Maryland, so not Baltimore, but not too far away. And police from Baltimore connected with that police department, and they find out that Josephine's first husband, Norman, was also shot to death. Now, police dig in on this murder, and they find that Norman had reported to police just before his murder that he feared for his life while with Josephine, and that he had once woken up in the middle of the night to find Josephine standing over him holding a gun. Yeah. About a month after this incident, Norman was found shot to death in a car with a single gunshot wound to his temple.
Okay.
There were footprints around the car, cigarette butts on the ground, things that proved he was talking to somebody outside the car before he was murdered. But this is 1974, so just, not a lot of DNA.
Okay.
Josephine was implicated in this murder, as was Robert Gray, who was her husband when Clarence moved in with them.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Robert.
It's quite the chain of like dudes here.
It's crazy.
Like, we need a chart. We need like a fucking chart.
Yes, honestly, we do. There's like a lot of hopscotching and overlapping going on. So Robert owned a gun that matched the one used to kill Norman. Also, police had found back then that Josephine had offered her brother and cousin, not this one, obviously, maybe a first cousin, $10,000 to kill Norman. So there you go.
So she got husband 2 to kill husband 1.
She did. Okay. Josephine and Robert were both arrested for solicitation to commit murder, but because there wasn't enough evidence to charge them with the actual murder, because again, there wasn't DNA, so they couldn't like test the cigarette butts. The shoes didn't apparently work out. So all they had was, the testimony from her brother and her cousin. And as the case came around, both of these witnesses disappeared.
Okay.
And even after they turned up, they refused to cooperate. They walked back their statements. They said they wouldn't testify. They were both just like, fuck no, we're not getting involved. So Josephine and Robert were both set free.
Okay.
They received $16,000 from Norman's life insurance policy and used that to buy a new home for the 2 of them and their 5 children, because Josephine and Norman had 5 children together.
Oof. Okay.
Robert and Josephine then have 1 child together. And then, of course, Clarence moves in. 15 years later, Robert is moving out after finding out about the affair. Prior to this, apparently Josephine had complete control over Robert, just like she did over Clarence. Robert's family said that once they were married, they never saw him. He was like not allowed to talk to them.
Yep.
She cut him off from everyone and just controlled him. And now at the end of their relationship, Robert starts saying very similar things to what Norman was saying at the end of his relationship with Josephine. Robert told friends that he was afraid of Josephine. Robert's stepson, who is Josephine's son, came forward to police to let them know about a murder that was about to happen.
Oh my God.
Josephine's own son came forward to say that his mother absolutely killed his father and was also going to kill his stepfather, Robert.
And he must be scared saying that. And like these poor kids have just been witness to so much like tumult and
trauma,
murder.
Yeah.
Murders. Yeah.
He said her son said everybody knew that she killed Norman, but she never got caught. Robert also came forward to police and even pressed charges against Josephine and Clarence after they followed him in their car and Clarence pointed a gun at him. So once again, using the new guy to get rid of the old guy.
She's good at getting dudes to murder other dudes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
A week before the trial for this, whatever this was, assault with a deadly weapon, I don't know what it would be. A week before this, though, Robert was found dead, shot to death in his apartment. Police found no forced entry, so whoever did it used a key to come in, hid in the closet, and ambushed him as he came home.
Oh my God.
So there we have our 2 dead husbands, and we're also seeing our pattern.
Yes.
And Josephine's the prime suspect.
And Clarence. 2 plus Clarence.
Yes. Clarence was actually interviewed, but found to not be involved in Robert's murder directly, at least not that they could prove. And of course, slippery-ass Josephine got away again, because there just wasn't enough evidence. So it might have been Clarence who killed Robert, but like, there's no witnesses who would even
You can't determine his level of involvement.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And going back to witnesses, let's say there were some. Nobody was going to come forward and speak out against Josephine because she was engaged in voodoo. And the people in the community were fucking terrified of her.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the sons said that they found a doll, or one of the daughters said, they found a doll of their dad with like pins in it. And then their dad was found dead. So they're very, very scared.
Okay.
Also, it's pretty clear she has no qualms about killing people. So it's like, that's what I'd be more worried about than the voodoo, probably. Is the fact that she'll just fucking shoot you.
Yeah, clearly. She doesn't need the extra stuff around it. So
yeah. So Robert's killed in 1990, and it isn't until 6 years later that Clarence is murdered. And Josephine does in fact get life insurance from Robert's death, despite his not ever even knowing that she had a policy on him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so police are like pretty on to her, but they just can't get anything on her. So they're actually allowed to bug her house, which is like crazy that was ever allowed, but they fucking bug her house. And they hear Clarence talking with Josephine. They hear voodoo sessions. And in one of the sessions, one of the detectives heard that she had a doll of him and was like using it, which is fucking crazy.
Oh no. Yeah, oh my God. And of course, so wild. Like voodoo, like witchcraft can be like chill, and like can be awesome, but like you can also definitely use it for like dark shit.
Yeah, dark shit. Yeah. Unfortunately, during the whole time the house was bugged, nothing about murder was expressly said, so they couldn't fucking get her. 6 years later, as we discussed, Clarence is murdered. And here's where Josephine fucked up, because she also took out an insurance policy on Clarence, which made judges suspicious enough to allow a search warrant to be executed on her home. And in her garage, police found a red stain that looked like blood. And it would make sense that she would have killed him there and then driven him out, put him in his own trunk, yada, yada, right?
Yeah.
They also looked through her phone records and saw that she had called Clarence from her home on the night that he was murdered. They surmised, like I said, killed him in the garage, drove him to Baltimore. Unfortunately, all they had was their suspicion. The stain ended up being a dead end, and police realized they were about to go down the same path they had gone down with the previous 2 murders, where they knew that she did it, but they couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
So instead, these sneaky, sneaky cops and sneaky, sneaky prosecutors decided to try her for something they knew they could get her for. And what they did was they went after her for mail fraud and wire fraud.
Okay.
So there's something called a Slayer's rule that is applied to insurance policies that says if you are involved in the murder or death of whoever has the insurance policy, you are not allowed to profit from that. And if you do that, you can be prosecuted. And she sent in these insurance requests through the mail, there's the mail fraud, and received the funds through wire transfer, which makes it wire fraud. So it's a very roundabout way of charging her, but they did it.
It's something, yeah.
Yeah. And this way they have to prove her involvement, but in this instance, the burden of proof is much less strict because they're not getting her for murder. They're getting her for like wire fraud. So it's not like literally life or death at the courts. It's like, as long as the jury thinks she probably did it, they're probably going to find her guilty, right?
Yeah.
So they go in with this prosecution, they take her to trial. It's basically a murder trial. Like the whole thing plays out like a murder trial. They're like focusing on how she did these murders.
It's a way of trying her for it.
Exactly. And they go like, Robert killed Norman, Clarence killed Robert, she killed Clarence. And Andre, her last boyfriend, was at first very loyal to Josephine, but when the cops broke it down to him, and they're like, dude, look at this pattern. Like, and you know she tried to get you to kill Clarence. So what do you think was gonna happen to you? And he was like, holy shit. And he testified against her.
Oh, he barely made it out.
He barely made it out. But he basically said, like, yeah, she wanted me to kill Clarence. She told me that she killed Robert. She told me that Robert killed Norman at her doing. So he basically verified everything the cops thought. And it's hearsay, but for these charges, it's enough. So she's given 40 years time for all of the charges that they could get her on.
That's even more than I thought for that. Okay.
Yeah. And at the time that they charged her, she was at least 40. So this was enough to put her away basically for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
And she's actually currently in prison right now at 76 years old with no end in sight.
It's crazy they couldn't get her on the actual murder, but whatever you got to do, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, it's like they couldn't like definitively match the bullets to the gun. There was no DNA. And in the 70s, I mean, there's no DNA. She could have, like, they were smoking cigarettes and shit around the body, and it like didn't, you know. But in the 90s, they had DNA, but for some reason they couldn't get the blood to come out. So they just did it a different way, and it worked out. She's been in prison, you know, since I think like the early 2000s, and that's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
Okay.
That's it.
What a crazy chain. Also, I like that people call her online murder by proxy, serial killer by proxy.
Yeah.
Like Charles Manson getting people to kill for her.
I don't think Andre killed Clarence. So I think she
so actually not all by proxy.
Not all by proxy, because she took matters into her own hands when she couldn't get Andre to do it. She wanted that insurance money, so she fucking did it herself because she got impatient. That's the thing that gets these ladies with the insurance policy shit. It's the impatient. It's when they're impatient they get caught.
Yeah.
Which, like,
and it's interesting the financial shit got her too.
Yeah.
Like that'll get you if nothing else.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. They'll always go after you for the money, if nothing else.
There we go.
Anyway, all there it is.
Well, there's going to be some similarities in all of these cases this week because the Black Widows, they operate very similarly to
one another. That money. They want that money.
So my next one is Sonia Rios, who has an official nickname, which is the Black Widow of Lomita.
Lomita, oh God.
Which is
a title.
Yeah, which is a really, if you don't know, nondescript, like suburban kind of Orange County, South LA. No, it's more Orange County.
It's more Orange County. I was going to say that's like being like, I don't know, the queen of Stockton. Like,
it's a very random little suburb. Yeah. So Sonia here owns a beauty salon in Lomita, against sort of Orange County suburb. She was originally from the Philippines, where she kind of came from very little, and we'll talk about how she gets to the States later, a bit of her background. So in 1990, Sonia married Larry Riskin. We're going to start with Larry. He was a lifelong Navy dude, Navy all the way through his life. But in 1995, he would leave the service to become a special ed high school teacher, kind of his second career phase in life. And according to everyone loved Larry. He was a beloved guy to all of his coworkers, friends, family, you name it. Genuinely seems like a legit dude.
Lady that I did recently, the Murders for Money.
Yeah.
Her husband was a teacher too. So there's another overlap. All right. Anyway.
So Sonia and Larry's marriage had a lot of difficulties. Also, by the way, similarly to Josephine, who you just talked about, she did a lot of like cutting him off from his family and not letting him interact with them, and they all didn't like her because of that. So very, very similar. Kind of women can do that thing too. We think of with abusive men where they isolate you, right? Like it's abusive people can be ladies. So they have a huge, a lot of marital difficulties, but the biggest one is a falling out because apparently Sonia was supposed to initiate adoption proceedings to bring her young niece and nephew to America from the Philippines. And he was really looking forward to this because Larry really wanted kids and Sonia was too old to have them. She was like in her mid 40s. She was older than Larry, and he had developed a whole relationship. They went back and forth to the Philippines a lot, and he had a whole relationship with these two kids. They come from like hard fucking knocks, right? And they're super stoked to move to the US and kind of with their new unofficial parents. And Larry really wants them to come. The kids love him. And she actually pretended she was doing it, but then it comes out that she was basically faking it and sabotaging it and not doing any adoption proceedings.
Okay.
So he's pissed.
Yeah.
Over that, because he really was holding on for that. As these difficulties continue, Larry did begin in a kind of small affair with a friend of his. And this made Sonia explode. She responds naturally by spreading really scary lies about him at the school where he works, and says that he's abusive to children and uses drugs. And so she's going wild. At this point, Larry's like, I'm fucking calling it. I want a divorce. I'm donezo. And Sonia surprisingly says, okay, despite her temperament otherwise.
Oh, she's just like down. She's like, fine.
Yeah, and Larry's relieved with this. But she says, okay, on one condition, though. I'm chill with this on one condition. You have to go on this trip to visit the niece and nephew, whom he still wanted to have a relationship with. So he's like, okay.
You think she's like being nice or something?
Yeah, but they had planned the trip already and like booked it or whatever. And so she's like, I'll divorce you, but you have to go alone to the Philippines. And so he's like, fine. I mean, he was even excited about it because again, he likes visiting the kids. So he was like, okay, all right. So upon arriving in the Philippines, Larry set up an impromptu Sweet 16 party for the niece, whose name was Kinsey. Again, he's a fucking sweet dude. He also notices that Kinsey's cousin April had kind of a bad eye infection, so he takes it upon himself to take her to the hospital to get it checked out. And there's home video footage of Larry at this little cute party. He just seems like a really sweet dude who's like big, goofy dad type.
Right. He seems like a sweetheart.
Yeah, the nephew, whose name was Jetmark, said that he felt really at home and safe with him, and like he considered him his dad. Like they're really tight. Later that night, April was discharged from the hospital, and Larry was, and some other family members had gone along or were visiting to check in on her. And so Larry was about to drive her and the family members home. And this includes Jetmark, the 14-year-old nephew, in the back seat. And as Larry sat down in the car in the parking lot of the hospital, a motorcycle pulled up with two guys on it. And the guy in the back pulls up and just cold shoots Larry in the head and stomach.
Holy fuck. Also, why two guys? That's so weird.
I don't know.
That's a very strange.
So one can drive away more quickly, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
So although the hospital, he's literally at a hospital, they try and treat him. It's, he's dead very quickly. Larry was only 43, and Jetmark is traumatized because he just watched his father figure get shot in the head in front of him.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
And he says he also was really startled by when he calls his Aunt Sonia at her reaction, because she says very calmly, she's not upset. She says, Jet, don't worry. Everything is under control. There's nothing to worry about. And he remembers thinking, what?
Like, how could you say that right now? That's not reassuring. It's inappropriate.
It's strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems pretty out of control to me.
Yeah.
Very strange. So the investigation in the Philippines doesn't go anywhere. They can't find the killers. So the family, Larry's family, hires a PI who basically tells them, we think this is a really well-planned hit. He also finds out a bunch of other interesting information. This awesome Filipino PI tells them that, interestingly, Larry had a $1 million insurance policy out on him that only benefited Sonia.
Oh, that's so bizarre. Who would have thought, huh?
Shocker, right?
Yeah.
But the insurance company was alerted to the suspicions surrounding Sonia by the Larry's family and this PI, and so they actually froze her payout. She did not get the money.
Okay.
So it's paused.
That's good.
Yeah. And she also suspiciously seems like right away trying to get that life insurance, right? Like instantly. She goes back to work right away. Everyone notices that she's not grieving. And most shocking of all, against his family's wishes, she has him cremated there and won't bring the remains back.
Why? They're ashes. Like, who fucking cares at that point?
Yeah, it's not like to hide evidence because it's fucking
it's just to be a dickhead, I guess?
Just to be a dick. Yeah, just to be a dick.
Jesus, dude.
So the PI also finds out, much to Larry's family's shock and surprise, that Sonia's first husband, named Earl Bordeaux, was also gunned down in the Philippines in front of Sonia's family.
Damn, that's fucked up. That's fucked up.
With her family. Like, okay. So boop, going in the time machine. We're going to go backwards here to talk about Earl.
This is very similar to mine. Yeah, I love it.
It is, yeah. boop, 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 there was another husband. Yeah. So Earl was also a military dude. He was a longtime Marine who met Sonia when he was on a tour in the Philippines, because we have a fuck ton of bases there.
Yeah.
Military imperialism, shout out. So yeah. So they got married super quickly. I think it was the same with Larry. Sonia's like, boop, boop, we're doing this, right?
Let's get married. I'm going to love bomb you and then control you and then murder you.
Exactly. Yeah. So they got married right away. And then Earl is the one who brought her to the United States kind of in the 60s or so. And they settled in Lomita, where Sonia opened her salon, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So family and friends said that their 21-year marriage was very troubled throughout. Sonia was apparently always angry at Earl, and Sonia always had boyfriends on the side. People said she was just basically dating like 8 people in addition to her marriage.
Oh, wow. Okay, so she's just like big into the side piece.
Oh yeah, all the time. So after years of difficulties, she agrees to get divorced, and Earl's like, sick, awesome. But
sick.
Wouldn't you know it, Sonia says, I'm gonna agree to that on one condition: you have to go to the Philippines by yourself. And
why? And why would he be like, no, I'm not gonna just randomly go to the Philippines by myself?
Right.
Like, and fucked.
She says it's to help sell a family business. So I guess it's sort of like under the context of do this one thing for me. However, unlike with Larry, who had this really great lure of the kids he's attached to, Earl is like, what the fuck? Like, he's not as into it. He told his brother Dennis that he didn't want to go, but Sonia was making him. That's what he says.
You can't make him. You're getting divorced. Like, just say no. I'm not mad at this guy. I'm just
but she clearly has a hold over these dudes. She's very manipulative.
Yeah.
He says to Dennis, I have a bad feeling about this. I don't want to fucking go, but he does. Right. And wouldn't you know it, the very first night he's there after that long ass flight and trip, he crashes at the family's he crashes at her brother's house.
Okay.
He's on the couch, and that very night there's a mysterious break-in, quote unquote, at the house in which Earl is shot in the head and killed.
Wow. That's so random.
But there's also no forced entry and no actual robbery. And blood was found on one of the brothers' shirts.
Mm-hmm.
There was briefly an investigation in which 5 family members, including both brothers who were there, were charged with Earl's murder. However, this investigation mysteriously ends and all charges are dropped.
Why?
Well, there's 2 reasons. The official reason that the officials gave was because Sonia, as next of kin, had to appear at an official hearing, and she did not. However, the PI, who later looks into Earl and Larry's cases, strongly believes that the officials were paid off to drop the case, because apparently this can happen for not a huge amount of money in the Philippines, about $1,000 usually. You can get rid of a case.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's suck. Yeah, I mean, it's no different here, really.
No, I mean, it can happen. Mm-hmm. So apparently Sonia did collect some tens of thousands of dollars in insurance money from Earl's death, and a pretty substantial estate, like various houses and cars and stuff like that. Basically everything they had together was hers, right?
Right.
So his brother Dennis also would later say that she basically had Earl secretly buried in the Philippines, so his body also never came back.
So this is like her fuck you to these families. Like, you're not getting their body. So she's just a dickhead on top.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, I know that's a weird, like, of course she's a dickhead. She's murdering people. But I feel like
she was out of her way. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like this extra level of like petty asshole that does shit like that.
Yeah, she's like, I made this asshole dickhead like Sunday, and then I'm just gonna put some sprinkles on top, you know, like she's just like adding the extra special.
Yeah, the cherry. The dickhead cherry. Yeah.
Yes.
God damn.
So his brother, by the way, Dennis Bordeaux here, continued to make waves like forever, trying to stir up interest in this case. And he actually, because of how vocal he was about like Sonia murdered my brother, he actually got hundreds and hundreds of death threats. And twice an unknown assailant tried to shoot him.
Whoa, just like for being
bullets are flying past his head. And he's like, okay. And they never find who specifically did that. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Sonia's like a fucking mob boss, dude. Like, she's fucking crazy.
She is hard as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I'll give her that.
So an investigator hired by the insurance company, again, it's always the money that gets you, not the actual police, right?
Oh, if you want to murder, just make it for like small thousands. You can't go big thousands or they're going to get you.
Yeah. So the insurance company starts investigating Sonia and her claims to the $1 million life insurance policy because they don't want to pay it out, right? So they're kind of like looking into her. And so Larry finds looking into Larry, they find even more suspicious stuff that Sonia's been up to, including a buttload of credit card fraud, various financial scams. So when filing fraudulent lawsuits, at one point she even burnt down a previous hair salon that she owned to collect all the insurance money from that. Apparently got a new salon. So she's just like scamming 24/7. She's every day she's scamming.
Every day.
24/7 scam life. Hashtag scam life. And when she's not murdering her husband, she's stealing people's identities and credit cards. Like, she's just thieving.
Damn, dude. I mean, looking at these pictures of her hair, hair gives off like big scammer vibes.
Big fraud vibes, yeah, for sure.
Big fraud. Those bangs are not, those are fraudulent ass bangs.
Fraudulent bangs.
She does have fraudulent bangs. You guys will see when we post it.
Yeah. So Larry's family then hires this guy the insurance detective to look into the murder itself because they're like so stoked with the portfolio he put together. And so he hooks up with the other PI in the Philippines, and together they pretty much lay it all out, like the murder timeline, everything that happened. So there's like, shy of actually charging her, they know everything that happened.
Okay, so they're like, we know what happened. We don't know if we can charge her for it, but like we all know. Okay.
Yeah, clearly the family's in on it. She paid her brothers or some other family member to do this shit. Like, duh. But just like with Earl, the official Philippines murder case in Larry's murder is dismissed.
Oh my God, why? Why?
Yeah. So meanwhile, in an insane twist, like there's like, you can't see the rest of these twists coming because they get weird. In an insane twist, a family member of Sonia's emails Larry's sister and says that Sonia killed your brother, offers to kill Sonia.
What?
And then tries to extort her for $35,000 in exchange for sending his cremated remains back to her. And
so
she's
like, family is just like classy winners, like front to back.
Yeah.
Hey, you want me to kill my family member for you? Also, I'm going to keep your fucking brother's remains if you don't pay me $35,000. But I'm a good guy, so I'm going to help you out. I'll totally kill my family member if you want.
Yeah, exactly. So this email appears to come from a John Bordeaux, and they kind of take a minute with the PI to figure out who the fuck that is and how he's related to Sonia. But it turns out this is actually Sonia's son, full-on biological son that she had in the Philippines before ever marrying Earl, and Earl actually adopted him and was kind of his stepdad. So he took his last name.
Oh, fuck!
That's his stepdad. Yes.
Oh,
so
fuck.
Yeah. So boop, 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 boop. Fast forward to Larry's murder was in 2006. I don't think I ever said that, but fast forward to April 2007. About a year afterwards, an unknown.
Is she being tried? She's not being tried for it.
We're not. Nope. That's not. No, that's not. I'm about to say a whole other thing.
Okay.
So an unknown assailant runs into Sonia's Lomita salon, fires a gunshot at her, misses, and runs away.
Okay.
Tries to shoot her.
Why are they trying to? Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll just shut up so you can tell me. But what the fuck?
A week later, Sonia is actually shot and killed execution style at her home in Lomita.
Holy fuck, dude.
Twist. There's no robbery and there's no signs of forced entry. And she had like cash and shit in her purse and nothing's taken.
So this was just like, fuck you, we're going to murder you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So here's the whole separate chapter here at the end. So her great nephew, Eric De La Cruz, with whom she was super close, he actually called her his grandma, right away tells authorities that it was John Bordeaux that he thinks killed her. John, meanwhile, they find John and he's like, fuck no, fuck you, I'm innocent. Like, I love my mom. She's the best, even though, sorry, she's not.
But wait, was it not really his email that they were using? Okay.
I'm getting there.
Tell me. Okay.
You're onto something.
I am.
So investigators look into who the fuck killed Sonia, right? And find that the previous report of that time she was almost shot like a week prior She actually reported that the same assailant had called the salon and then shown up for a haircut a few days prior and was like super weird. So she asked him to leave. And when he called her about the haircut, they got the phone number. So they found this number belonged to one Fernando Romero.
Okay.
It's a little convoluted, so bear with me.
Okay.
They get a warrant for Fernando's phone records and find that he is like talking all the time with the beloved great nephew, Eric De La Cruz. They're so interesting.
Okay.
And they, with a very little digging, they find out that the two of them are besties and shipmates in the Navy. So more Navy folks.
Okay. Classy all around.
And when they look again into those emails that were sent to Larry's sister from John Bordeaux, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the emails were like John Bordeaux at like Gmail or whatever, right?
I am definitely John Bordeaux at gmail.com.
Yeah. They trace the IP address from which they were sent, and it was from a Navy IP address, literally on a boat in the fucking ocean.
These guys are smart.
John was not on the ocean, right?
Yeah, they're smart.
So clearly, what the fuck is Eric's motive? It seems that he had a lot in common with his great aunt because he pretty much right away tried to ask, what am I getting from her inheritance? What's my payout?
But wait, did he not even know? He was just like hoping it was good and decided to kill her to find out? Like he couldn't wait until Christmas to open the present kind of shit?
Yeah, he didn't even know for sure he was getting shit.
Wow. Okay, also, I'm sorry, but that to me means he doesn't know her very well because I got a feeling she didn't leave him shit.
She did not leave him shit, correct.
I
think he was chummying up to her and like being her bestie to try to do this, and she actually left everything to her son, John Bordeaux.
Yeah, who probably was the only like pure person in her whole fucking life. I could have told you that. This is a hard ass woman and a scammer to the core. She's gonna read that little boy like she's gonna know he's
sense the vibes.
Yeah, come on.
Takes a scammer to know another scammer.
Exactly, you know? And she is obviously like the scammer. You cannot out scammer her. No way.
Exactly. And so basically, if you're putting it together, he used a fake email to try and frame John. And the reason he wanted John Bordeaux put away so badly is because he was sure that John was getting a cut of the inheritance. That's what he thought. And so he wanted John put in jail so that he would get all of the inheritance rather than a portion of it. And John wouldn't get his portion. But surprise, surprise, you get nothing.
Yeah, I'm also thinking that like, that's not how that works anyway. They're not just going to be like, oh, let's just give it to somebody else. Like, that's not necessarily, I mean, maybe it is, but like, I don't.
Yeah, I guess you would still get it if you went to prison, maybe.
I feel like this kid made a lot of really dumb assumptions.
A lot of assumptions, for sure.
Bad assumptions.
So Eric and Fernando are both charged, and they also figure with Sonia's murder, and they figure out quickly that Fernando Romero was actually the hitman who Eric arranged to go and shoot Sonia. So he actually shot her.
So who was on the bike with him?
Oh, no, that was in the Philippines. We're in LA.
Oh, right. That was the Philippines murder. This was the other one.
All the Filipino murders got away with it.
What it is.
Yeah. In the murder of Sonia, Fernando shot her. Eric arranged it all.
Got it. Okay.
And I'm probably sure promised him a payout from the payout he didn't get. Right?
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So Eric De La Cruz and Fernando Romero tried together for Sonia's murder. At trial, the prosecutors and defense are hilariously open about what a dickbag Sonia was. They're literally, and her status as an accused murderer herself. So they're literally like, look, Sonia sucks. No one likes her. She's the worst. Yeah. However, we still didn't want her to be murdered. Fair. And you shouldn't murder people. These are scary dudes. No. And regardless of how villainous Sonia was, she was also like nothing but good to Eric. So it's kind of scary that he could murder someone who was like super nice to him.
Yeah.
And he also sought to exploit the victims' families and frame an innocent dude. So there's like a whole like thing happening here.
Yeah, I'll kill my aunt, but you don't get your brother's ashes until you pay me. Like, this is that's so crazy. Cold.
And he fucked with the families. Yeah. And also both of the families of her victims, Larry and Earl, said they like, even though they would have gladly killed like Sonia themselves, really, they also like didn't want it to end this way because they felt like they were robbed of justice and answers, and like they wanted her to be brought to justice, right?
I don't know. I feel like being murdered in cold blood, like in your home by who you probably know is your family member or is, by your family member is pretty poetic justice in my.
No, I was just gonna say, people use that exact phrase of poetic justice because like it is very parallel, where she, murdered 2 people who were nothing but kind and innocent and sweet and like didn't deserve it, and did it for cold hard cash. And then she's murdered by someone who she was nothing but nice to for cold hard cash.
Cold hard cash.
Like,
yeah. But I do think that she, in the back of her mind, knew, because she didn't leave that little shit anything. So she had to know something was up.
For sure. Yeah. But it is a little bit of karma. But still, the families were like not, they were okay with these people being brought to justice. They didn't want to give them a medal or anything, know?
Right.
So in 2011, Fernando gets 26 years to life. Eric gets 27 years to life. And I'm sure the fact that there's parole and there's not the death penalty is probably because of her being a dickbag. So
yeah, it's not a great loss. Although it does like, obviously, I feel like this guy is like a little like scumbag anyway. So I feel like if he gets out, he's not going to like not be a scumbag. I don't know that he'd necessarily kill anybody again, but I mean, it seems to come pretty easy to him.
I mean, if you kill, like I said, a loved one who's really, really nice to you for cash, like that is a frightening person.
Yeah, that's somebody who doesn't
or likewise in Fernando's case, if he would say yes to probably not a lot of money to be a hitman, like oof,
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Yeah, it really does. It makes you wonder.
So yeah, that's Sonia Rios, and she didn't get brought to justice in the Philippines, but she got some kind of justice.
She got street justice.
Street justice.
Street justice in LA, which makes sense in a way. Wow, dude, that's a good one.
Yeah, I had to do that because there was some twists. It wasn't like she killed the 2 husbands, goodbye. It was like she killed the 2 husbands and surprise.
Yeah, I feel like both of these cases had some twists. I feel like I kind of like hopefully didn't go too fast through mine, but I was like, there's a lot to cover. But yeah, mine was like a little overlapping hopscotchy murder game, and then yours was like this weird all in the family murder.
Yours was like a Game of Thrones murder network of like a chart.
It was. Yeah, mine needs a chart. Yours just needs, I don't know, Jesus.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, dysfunctional family for sure too.
Yeah, that's wild.
I play.
Oof. Well, all right. Thanks for listening, guys. That's the first 2. We'll be back with 2 more in a day or so. And then you get to hear my beautiful voice all alone next week.
Black Widows, we'll keep Black Widowing though first.
They will. I might actually do another Black Widow because there's so many good ones.
Yeah, maybe just keep up the theme. 2 weeks of Black Widows.
Yeah, 2 weeks of Black Widows.
And there's a couple too that are on our like brainstorming list that are like beefy that could like,
be a whole episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I didn't choose those because I was like, well, too much. So maybe you guys get those still. Lucky listeners.
Bonus Black Widow.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. Tuning in, telling your friends. Please like, rate, review, share with everyone. We've got such a steady listener base. It's so fucking cool. Thank you guys. We love you and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
And until the next half,
stay
off our